Here are the top stories for today, December 23, 2021. Protection for younger children on the way. The Food and Drug Administration gives its nod to the emergency use of Pfizer COVID-19 vaccines for kids 5 to 11 years of age. Standing in solidarity, foreign aid pours in for victims of Typhoon Odette as the government also assures enough funds to respond to the effects of the calamity that flattened most of Visayas and Mindanao. The Catholic Church enjoins the faithful to observe the holiday season in a simple manner to commiserate with the victims of Typhoon Odette. And groups express outrage over the acquittal of some communist leaders on charges over the Inopacan massacre over 3 decades ago. Good day, I am William Theo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. The Food and Drug Administration has approved the administration of COVID-19 vaccines for children aged 5 to 11 years old. In a Laging Handa briefing today, FDA Director General Eric Domingo says Pfizer vaccine is believed to be effective to prevent COVID-19 and that the benefits outweigh the known and potential risks.
Kung naalala po ninyo, isa sa mga pinakauna nating bakuna na na-approve for EUA sa Pilipinas ay yung Pfizer at sila rin po yung ginagamit natin ngayon sa 12 years old pataas. And ito pong end of November, nag-apply na rin po sila sa atin ng emergency use authorization for use of Pfizer 5 to 11 years old. Ito pong bakuna na ito ay ginagamit na po sa mga bata sa maraming bansa, katulad po sa US, sa Europa at saka po sa Canada. And upon the review of the technical documents and evaluation of the US FDA recommendations, our experts have found that the data submitted is sufficient for the EUA approval.
Acting Presidential Spokesperson and Cabinet Secretary Carlo Nograles clarified that the government still has money to spend for both Typhoon Odette and the COVID-19 response. In a press briefing, he explained that President Rodrigo Duterte had even committed to raising 10 billion pesos for the victims of the typhoon.
Yes, we have enough. The President already directed, number one, yung sa 10 billion nga na kinakailangan.
Meanwhile, DBM Officer in Charge Tina Rose Marie Canda says they are working to provide the 10 billion peso fund until December 29.
For the 10 billion pesos which the President mentioned, the 2 billion pesos is already available under the NDREAM F, which is the long name of Calamity Fund. The next 2 billion is available under the President's Contingent Fund, and the remainder of the 6 million will be available in a couple of days once the GAA or the General Appropriations Act is signed for 2022. That's a 2022 GAA. When is it going to be signed? We expect that the 2022 budget measure will be signed before the year ends. So it's between siguro after Christmas until the 29th. These are the days that are open.
In his Talk to the People address, President Rodrigo Duterte says emergency funds for typhoon victims could be released within the week. Cities hit by Typhoon Yolanda are giving back this Christmas season as they extend aid to neighboring areas affected by Typhoon Odette. The city of Tacloban, led by Mayor Alfred Romualdez, delivered relief supplies to San Juan, Southern Leyte, just 6 days after the onslaught of Odette. These include sacks of rice, drinking water, and a team from the City Health Office who held a medical mission for residents. Tacloban City was the hardest hit area by Yolanda in 2013. Ormoc City also joined Tacloban in its gesture of solidarity for typhoon victims. Health staff, sanitation personnel were deployed to Southern Leyte to provide health services to affected residents, as well as drinking water. And Borongan City also sent aid to General Luna Town in Surigao del Norte. These supplies include corrugated sheets, tarpaulin rolls, purified water, umbrellas, and food. Mayor Jose Ivan Agda says they know the plight of typhoon victims as they suffered the same fate years back. Borongan City was among the first responders to send relief aid to Maasin City in southern Leyte and the town of Inopacan in Leyte just a day after Odette hit Visayas and Mindanao on December 16. Around 3,400 family food packs from the Department of Social Welfare and Development Field Office are sent to typhoon-hit areas in Palawan. The Mimaropa Regional Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council says the second batch of assistance is part of the more than 30,000 family food packs from the Department of Social Welfare and Development Field Office. Aside from food assistance, DSWD Mimaropa will also be sending 500 modular tents and 1,000 hygiene kits as soon as transport becomes available. The Philippine Coast Guard, meanwhile, is maximizing its marine assets to accommodate all relief cargoes, medicines, and equipment to typhoon-affected provinces, while the Naval Forces West, which is based in Puerto Princesa City, deployed its air assets to conduct maritime air surveillance and rapid disaster assessment and needs analysis in the area. For its part, the Department of Information and Communications says it will strengthen Palawan's connection with the rest of the region and mainland Luzon with the deployment of 10 more units of VSAT. The government has set up an information center in every fire station to help typhoon victims locate their loved ones. Interior Secretary Eduardo Año says more than 10,000 personnel from the Bureau of Fire Protection have been deployed to the region severely devastated by the typhoon. Año also said that over 14,000 police personnel are also on the ground to maintain peace and order and to assist in rescue and recovery efforts.
Ito po natin na meron po tayong 14,203 PNP personnel dedicated for the Typhoon Odette. Pero nagdadagdag pa po tayo galing sa ibang police regional offices from PRO 5 ay mag-augment po sa Region 8. Ang PRO 4A magdadagdag din sa Region 6. Ang PRO 1, 2, 3, and CAR ay sa Region 7. At PRO 9, 10, 11, 12, and BAR ay sa Caraga Region. Ito po ay para siguraduhin na ang ating peace and order ay nime-maintain, tutulong sila sa rescue and recovery operations and also sa relief and rehabilitation effort.
Foreign relief aid continues to pour in for provinces hit by Typhoon Odette. The South Korean and Irish governments have pledged about 116.8 million pesos in humanitarian aid. Korean ambassador to the Philippines Kim In-chul said Seoul will provide approximately 102.7 million pesos to help Visayas and Mindanao recover and restore the affected communities' livelihoods. This is on top of the 2.5 million pesos humanitarian aid that they give to procure rice for the victims. Ireland, on the other hand, earmarked at least 14.1 million pesos in disaster relief assistance. The Irish aid will be coursed through the United Nations World Food Program. Meanwhile, the Chinese and United States governments will provide an additional 60 million pesos in humanitarian aid. Chinese Ambassador Huang Xilian said China coursed its approximately 15 million pesos cash donation through the Department of Foreign Affairs. Wang also formally turned over at least 1,500 metric tons of rice in Cebu and 3,225 metric tons of rice in Manila for immediate deployment. Moreover, the United States extends another 10 million pesos to help procure food, water, hygiene supplies, and other relief items to people affected by the typhoon, particularly in Surigao del Norte and Dinagat Islands. President Rodrigo Duterte has extended gratitude to Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, Emir of Qatar, for the offer of assistance for provinces hit by Typhoon Odette. The president conveyed his sincerest appreciation to Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani for the expression of sympathy and solidarity with the victims of Typhoon Odette during a telephone conversation on Tuesday, December 21. President Duterte also welcomed the Qatari Emir's offer of assistance for the rehabilitation of the affected communities in the Visayas and northern Mindanao regions. He said Qatar is and will always be a friend of the Philippines. For his part, His Highness Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani said the Filipinos are appreciated in Qatar. President Rodrigo Duterte urges the public to get their booster shots to control the spread of the highly transmissible Omicron variant. He maintained that his insistence to push for the vaccination of Filipinos was a good move despite criticisms from some sectors.
Take advantage now of the situation where we have available, not as said in excess, barely enough, but we can start with the boosters because it would make your immune system or the antibodies may be generated stronger because over time it would really overwhelm the virus.
President Duterte says those who continued to refuse inoculation could simply stay indoors because leaving their homes would put others' health at risk. He adds that the government could use its police power to compel citizens to get vaccinated against COVID-19. Currently, COVID-19 vaccination remains voluntary until a law is passed making it mandatory.
Now, if you do not want to be vaccinated, we can always courteously ask you to do not go out of the house so that you will not be putting in jeopardy the rest of your neighbors and everybody. If you are going to an office, ayaw mo, tapos you contaminate the whole of the office.
Meanwhile, National Task Force Against COVID-19 Chief Implementer Secretary Carlito Galvez Jr. cited the importance of massively administering booster doses as the Omicron variant officially entered the country.
The thing that we can say that is yung mag-boostering po tayo ng massively. Particularly po yung mga 3 months and above. Kaya po talagang namin, we will recommend yan yung buong NCR at saka po yung mga centers na nabakunahan ng mga una ng March, April, May, June, July. Kailangan mo po na mapabooster na po sila. So, kailangan po 3 months or 4 months na po sila is mapabooster para at least yung ma-minimize po natin yung tatawag nating breakthrough.
As of Wednesday, 45,284,617 Filipinos have been fully vaccinated, while 1,194,321 more have received their booster shots. The government enjoins local government units in areas not affected by Typhoon Odette to ramp up their vaccination efforts, including on weekends. Acting Presidential Spokesperson and Cabinet Secretary Carlo Nograles said the national government is sticking to its goal of fully vaccinating 54 million Filipinos by year-end, despite the postponement of vaccination in typhoon-hit areas. He said typhoon-hit LGUs could resume inoculation after prioritizing rehabilitation efforts. Over 5 million doses of coronavirus vaccines have been administered so far during the extended Bayanihan Bakunahan campaign. Of the total 5,056,186 doses of administered vaccines from December 15 to 21, Dr. Kezia Lorraine Rosario of the National Vaccination Operations Center says the national government could still administer more than 1 million doses of COVID-19 jabs per day. The NVOC has been advocating the full vaccination of Filipinos and is optimistic about reaching its target of 54 million fully vaccinated individuals this year. So far, the Philippines has administered a total of 102,988,677 doses of COVID-19 vaccines as of yesterday, December 22nd. Of the number, 45,284,617 Filipinos have been fully vaccinated and 1,194,321 more got their booster shots. Still ahead, the president encourages the voluntary use of face shields, expressing concern over the Omicron variant. And 5 regions will get funding from the Labor Department to employ typhoon-affected informal workers. Details ahead. Keep it here on the PNA Newsroom.
Hi everyone, James Deacon here. The COVID-19 vaccines are finally here, and the government wants to make sure the vaccines reach us. So let's do our part by making sure that we get registered to be included in the vaccination list of our LGU. You can register right in the comfort and safety of your own homes through your LGU's online registration platform. And you can also register on-site in the vaccination venues or through your barangay. Remember, getting vaccinated is the first step towards ending this pandemic. So let's do our part as disciplined citizens. Bida ang may disiplina. Magpakarehistro at magpabakuna para sa ligtas na pamilya, ligtas na bayan.
President Rodrigo Duterte enjoins the public to keep using their face shields on top of their face masks, even if it is no longer mandatory in areas under Alert Level 2. He says he firmly believes that face shields help lower the number of COVID-19 cases in the country. The president lifted the mandatory use of face shields last month and only making them voluntary in areas under Alert Level 1 to 3. The face shield policy is left to the discretion of local government units and private establishments in areas under Alert Level 4. Only areas under Alert Level 5 and crowded and close contact, such as hospitals and other medical facilities, are required to use face shields.
You know what's really not funny, but more of a reaction of a human behavior. Some countries even criticize us for requiring the face shield. Alam mo, sa totoo lang, I believe you that in some areas, in some countries, the people there are so much concerned about their human rights. Yan, and that's the favorite catchword ng mga ano ngayon human rights. Everything that they would always invoke human rights, everything that government says that there's a human right violation. Nakakatulong sa Pilipino, totoo lang. I think the compliance of our citizens in the matter of strictly enforcing the masks.
Some 25,000 informal sectors workers affected by Typhoon Odette in the Visayas and Mindanao will be provided with emergency employment. Labor Secretary Silvestre Bello III said a total of 100 million pesos has been allocated to the flagship Cash for Walk Tulong Panghanap Buhay sa Ating Disadvantaged or Displaced Workers or TUPAD for the said workers who are in the hardest hit regions. The regions of Western Visayas, Central Visayas, Eastern Visayas, Northern Mindanao, and Caraga will each get 20 million pesos for the emergency employment of 5,000 beneficiaries. The salary of beneficiaries is based on the prevailing minimum wage in the region and is coursed through a money remittance service provider. Malacanang on Wednesday appealed to business owners not to take advantage of Filipinos affected by the devastation caused by Typhoon Odette. Acting Presidential Spokesperson Cabinet Secretary Carlo Nograles said people living in areas ravaged by the typhoon are already putting up with so much. He said President Rodrigo Duterte himself directed concerned agencies, including the Department of Trade and Industry, to look into reported looting incidents among typhoon victims. Police are also patrolling areas with reported cases of looting. Duterte earlier signed Proclamation 1267 declaring a state of calamity in areas battered by Odette, particularly the Mimaropa, Western Visayas, Central Visayas, Eastern Visayas, Northern Mindanao, and Caraga regions. In our business news, a credit rating agency welcomed passage in the Senate of a measure to liberalize several sectors, including the telecommunication industry. Fitch Solutions said foreign direct investments to the Philippines may increase following the passage of the measure, which is seen to improve investors' appetite. It said increased foreign investment in the telecoms and tech sectors will serve the growth of such assets. Fitch Solutions said allowing greater foreign investors in the domestic telco industry is seen to boost the country's capacity to be among the fastest growing cloud market in the region to around $1.36 billion in market size by 2024. To date, foreign ownership in public utilities in the country is only allowed up to 40%. The National Privacy Commission has started investigating a possible personal data breach where hundreds of BDO Unibank depositors lost their money. NPC Commissioner John Henry Naga said they have issued notices to BDO and Union Bank to provide information, documents, evidence, or witnesses. The Commission is also looking into BDO's 10-year-old system and whether sufficient safeguards were in place. The NPC has ordered BDO and Union Bank to appear for a clarificatory conference on January 2022. Meantime, the NPC is also working with other government agencies on its investigation of the security incident. Earlier, the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas said the suspected hackers of the compromised BDO accounts have been identified, including those behind a certain Mark Nagoyo. Up next, the Catholic Church calls for a modest observance of Christmas as a gesture of solidarity with typhoon victims. And groups renew their call to end communist insurgency as they slam the acquittal of some communist leaders on charges arising from the Inopacan massacre. More stories when the PNA Newsroom returns.
Mga kabida, hindi pa rin po nawawala ang banta ng COVID-19. Kaya para masigurado natin ang inyong kaligtasan, hanapin po ang Safety Seal sticker sa kahit na anong lugar na inyong pupuntahan, mapamall man ito o kahit na anong establishmento. Ang Safety Seal po ay tanda ng isang establishmento ay sumusunod sa minimum public health standards ng gobyerno para maiwasan ang pagkalat ng COVID-19. Ating pong tatandaan, bida ang may disiplina. Kaya #SafetySeal para sa ligtas na pamilya at ligtas na bayan.
Mga kabida, hindi pa rin nawawala ang banta ng COVID-19. Upang masiguro ang kaligtasan ninyo at ng inyong pamilya, hanapin ang Safety Seal sticker sa inyong pupuntahan. Mapamall man ito, kainan, pasyalan o kahit anong business establishment. Ang Safety Seal ay tanda ng isang establishmento ay sumusunod sa minimum public health standards ng gobyerno para maiwasan ang pagkalat ng COVID-19. Ating tandaan, bida ang may disiplina. #SafetySeal para sa ligtas na pamilya, ligtas na bayan.
The Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines, or CBCP, appealed to the faithful to not hold extravagant Christmas parties in solidarity with the victims of Typhoon Odette. CBCP President Bishop Pablo Virgilio David said instead of spending on lavish parties and gifts, they could help communities devastated by the natural calamity. Earlier, the bishops' group declared Christmas Day, December 25 and 26, as national days of prayer for the typhoon victims. Dioceses are also encouraged to hold a second collection in all masses on these days for the church's relief operations headed by Caritas Philippines, the church's social action arm. Caritas Philippines has initially released 3 million pesos from its Alay Kapwa Fund for emergency relief operations and 2.5 million pesos to help the church's relief efforts. Several civic groups condemned the acquittal of about 15 leaders of the Communist Party of the Philippines and the National Democratic Front from their alleged involvement in the Inopacan massacre in Leyte. The groups of parents and other anti-communist organizations staged a marching rally on Wednesday to express their disappointment to the Manila Regional Trial Court Branch 32. League of Parents of the Philippines Chair Remy Rosadio said the people's faith on the justice system has eroded because of the dismissal made over a technicality. Rosadio said the decision may increase the morale of the New People's Army to continue their atrocities such as extortion, recruiting more minors and indigenous people. Liga Independencia Pilipinas President Jose Antonio Goitia described the Manila RTC's decision as a major setback to the country's fight against communist insurgency. He said the court's decision would not stop them from seeking justice for the Inopacan massacre victims. In our news overseas, Cambodia and Vietnam on Wednesday called for the upholding of international law in the disputed South China Sea as they pushed for adherence to the 1982 UN Convention on the Law of the Sea. In a joint communique, the two sides reiterated ASEAN's position on the importance of maintaining peace, security, stability, safety, and freedom of navigation in the South China Sea. The two ASEAN members urged exercising restraint and peacefully resolving disputes. They also called for the conclusion of an effective and substantive code of conduct in the South China Sea. The statement was made as Vietnamese President Nguyen Huan Phuc was in Cambodia for a 3-day visit where he met with Prime Minister Hun Sen and other top officials. In 2016, the Philippines won a case at The Hague's Permanent Court of Arbitration that invalidated China's expansive claims over the resource-rich South China Sea. More residents in the Ilocos region will soon be able to use their own national ID cards. This as the Philippine Postal Corporation, or PhilPost, has delivered about 400,000 Philippine ID cards to registrants in the region as of December 10. The Philippine Statistics Authority said this includes those that have been returned due to the restraint being deceased or having left their residence. On the other hand, the delivery of some of the PhilIDs to successful registrants may have been delayed due to double registration or duplication. For those who have already received their PhilIDs, the PSA is discouraging them from posting their PhilSys cards online or lending them to other people. More than 3 million have registered in the PhilSys Step 2 in Ilocos as of December 21. A new ASEAN Heritage Park may soon rise in Lanao del Norte. Mount Inayawan, a protected area for forested mountains, is being developed to be recognized as a heritage area. More on this from Claire Gighe.
Natural beauty, preserving culture and nature, and keeping with it the vast Nunungan Lake. That is Mount Inayawan Range Natural Park, situated at the heart of the municipality of Nunungan in the province of Lanao del Norte. With all the qualities it possesses, this is now aspiring to be an ASEAN Heritage Park or AHP. Nunungan Municipal Mayor Marcos Mamay shared that representatives from the ASEAN Center for Biodiversity or ACB visited the spot on December 13 to 15 to validate whether it qualifies for heritage recognition.
Kami na pasok na. Kasi doon pa lang sa presko namin, pasok na yung nunungan. Nag-base kami sa mga feedback nila. Puro magaganda yung ano.
He added that architects from Cambodia also came over to pursue a proposal. Accordingly, a circumferential road will be built around the lake for triathlon purposes. And with the approval of the 40 million budget for the electrification from the boundary of the municipalities of Sapad to Nunungan, a cable car traveling around and a zip line crossing the lake will be both prioritized. Actor Rubin Padilla, who also visited Nunungan, assured support by promoting the tourist spot to the public.
Promote bilang isang artista, bilang isang vlogger na rin, kailangan natin ipangalandakan sa ating mga kababayan at sa buong mundo na mayroong ganitong lugar sa Lanao City.
While the municipal government, alongside the provincial and national governments, strives to provide improvement in the tourist destination, Mamay conveyed they are already in awe of the positive impact in the tourism sector brought about by good leadership even before the present plan of progress. As known, Mount Inayawan, a protected area and the last frontier of the province, stands on more than 3,500-hectare land area and is roughly 1,365 above sea level. When officially recognized, it will become the 10th AHP of the Philippines. For PNA Newsroom, Claire Gigha of the Philippine Information Agency, Ligan City in Lanao del Norte.
Let's take another look at today's biggest stories. Protection for younger children on the way. The Food and Drug Administration gives its nod to the emergency use of Pfizer COVID-19 vaccines for kids 5 to 11 years of age. Standing in solidarity, foreign aid pours in for victims of Typhoon Odette as the government also assures enough funds to respond to the effects of the calamity that flattened most of Visayas and Mindanao. The Catholic Church enjoins the faithful to observe the holiday season in a simple manner to commiserate with the victims of Typhoon Odette. And groups express outrage over the acquittal of some communist leaders on charges over the Inopacan massacre over 3 decades ago. As Filipinos, we all have a vital role to play in preventing the spread of COVID-19. So remember, wear your face masks and face shields, wash your hands often, practice safe physical distancing, go out only for essential reasons, and get vaccinated as soon as possible to protect ourselves, our families, and the community. Together, we can beat COVID-19. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. For more news content, check our webpage or log on to the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also, watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC 13. And tomorrow will be a special day as we will be presenting our PNA Christmas special, which we worked hard for. It will air at 8 o'clock on IBC 13 and again at 12 o'clock midnight on PTV4. And we will start our stream at 8:30 p.m. on our social media accounts. And for our holiday countdown, it is the last 2 days to go before Christmas. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know. From the PNA Newsroom, we tell stories that inspire change. I am William Theo. Good day and happy holidays, everyone.